We're going to give this another shot. You know what? I'm sticking to my guns on this technology. We're going to give it another try here because we really want to broadcast on both platforms at one time. But I got to be completely honest with you guys. This is the main reason why it's just me tonight. I asked our guest, who we were going to have on the live tonight, I asked them if they would mind bumping to Thursday because I had a feeling, just based on my own personal talent level, that we were going to have some issues tonight. So I appreciate you guys bearing with us. So, you know the gig, if you guys would. First of all, if you would in the comments on both TikTok and YouTube, just let us know you can hear us okay. Let us know everything's a-okay. The sound is great. You can hear Will. All is good. And then once you do that, the guys in the booth are going to give me the thumbs up that everybody can hear us. And then you know what to do next. Get out there and start liking the live and sharing the live. Get up on everybody's FYP page. Let's give this another go because we really do have a good show tonight. And I'm not going to try to race through it. I am going to go a little bit faster because I don't want to keep you guys up until 10 o'clock tonight. But we do have a lot of really good information that we want to share. So let me just kind of cover in about 5 minutes here what we talked about before, okay? First of all, I told you guys very clearly, because I don't want anybody to miss this, and I don't want anybody to think that Will's cheese is slid off his cracker over the next few weeks. You're going to see me growing a beard over the next 3 or 4 weeks, okay? What's the reason for that? Well, the reason is simple. Whenever I was a kid, I never heard the word sunscreen in my life, all right? When I wanted to go out in the sun, I went out in the sun. I went out, played on the farm, swam in the creek, jumped in the pond, went to the local swimming pool, all of that. Hauled hay, drove the tractor, all of that without any sunscreen on. So you guys know where I'm going with this story, right? Now I have to spend about 3 hours every year at the dermatologist's office getting all of the sunspots taken off my face so that they don't turn into anything more than that. So I had the first ones done on Friday. One nice thing about the poor video quality, one nice thing about the poor video quality on the Zoom is that you can't see the burn marks on my face from where the dermatologist did her good work. But anyway, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to see me growing a beard. For those of you that think it makes me the sexiest man alive, you're welcome. And for those of you that think I look like I shouldn't be around playgrounds with young children, well, I apologize in advance. All right. So let's talk about what we've discussed tonight, guys. First of all, I'm not sure how much of it you heard, so I'm going to talk about it again, but I'm probably not going to spend as much time on some of these first points. I just want to reiterate them. This quote unquote big, beautiful bill that's been put in place, basically, it's just bad news for the American people. There's no other way to put it. We've talked time and time and time again how when the Republicans want to pass bad legislation, they put a beautiful title on the bill. For instance, in my state of Missouri here, when they wanted to allow foreign companies and foreign governments to come in and swoop up and buy up American farmland here in the state of Missouri, when they wanted to allow commercial animal feeding operations to come in and poison our water, they called it the Right to Farm Bill. When they want to dirty the water, they call it the Clean Water Act. When they want to pollute the air, they call it the Clean Air Act. The same thing is happening here. This is a pile of shit, and therefore they're naming it the Big Beautiful Bill. The Big Beautiful Bill. And we talked about some of the problems with the bill. It cuts Medicaid by anywhere from 625 billion to 700 billion, which is going to take away health care coverage for millions of poor Americans, especially in rural America. It's going to cut SNAP benefits. You guys know my personal story. I won't go into it again. The social safety net saved my family when my father passed away when I was 5 years old. There are going to be little kids just like me without any way to put food in their belly other than private institutions and churches and charities that will not be able to keep up with the demand, that will go to bed hungry every night in the wealthiest country on the face of the earth because of the Big Beautiful Bill. They're cutting federal student aid, making it harder and harder for poor kids and lower middle class kids to go to school without paying for the whole thing out of their pocket. And just in case making the class divide even wider wasn't enough for them, Well, don't worry. There's some really shitty things in here for our brothers and sisters that are coming here for a better life as well. They're going to triple the budget for ICE. And the administration, in debating this bill, had to admit two things that they didn't want to admit. One is they have a goal of deporting 1 million immigrants every year in this country. And they want to put the infrastructure in place to ensure that it happens even after the Trump administration is gone. 1 million. And due process be damned. They want to reach that 1 million number, regardless of whether or not it requires due process to be tossed aside. And if you think the Homeland Security head is going to step up there and defend the American people, you're wrong. Hell, she thinks habeas corpus is an ice cream flavor, or whatever the hell she said in the congressional hearing. Not only that, along with deporting 1 million people every year, they want to put 100,000 of these immigrants in detention centers. And oh, by the way, Donald Trump's personal friends and acquaintances own these private detention centers that they want to put these people in. It's grift after grift after grift. They want to sell off and pollute public lands. Listen to this. They want to open up national parks, forests, and even sacred native lands, burial grounds, spiritual grounds for mining, drilling, and logging. And while they're at it, hell, if you're going to let them pollute the water and cut down all the trees and mine our national treasures, you might as well end all investment in solar and wind and alternative energy sources that help pull carbon out of the air and make the world a better place to live. We talked about the fact, and we've talked about it before on these lives, that AI, artificial intelligence, I own a tech company right now, and I've told you that I've been to these meetings, I've been to these seminars, I've been to these training sessions where they highlight the fact that up to 60% of the jobs in this country could be gone over the next 5 to 8 years because of artificial intelligence. And because this administration is in bed with Silicon Valley and Elon Musk and the people that propagate artificial intelligence with no limits, they're not passing any legislation that would place limits on AI to limit the number of jobs that it can replace or the amount of surveillance it can carry out on the American people. So what's happened in the absence of federal leadership? States, as they always do, have stepped in. They've stepped in to fill the gap. And they're working in state legislatures across the country to create legislation that protects American workers. They also want to give Trump, and this is really frightening, guys, they want to give the president more power over nonprofits and oversight. And in the booth there, if you just want to kind of scroll down through the website as I cover these points, just go along with me, guys, no problem. They want to give Trump more power over nonprofits and oversight. First thing this does is it allows Trump to censor nonprofits. Think about that. They can label a nonprofit a terrorist organization or say that they support terrorists and take away their tax status for any reason they want. Let me give you an example. Some of you may have seen the video that I did about 2 months ago on this. They are actually going after nonprofits and trying to take away their money because they deem the fight against climate change in some cases to be a terrorist act. And we talked about the fact that they can use this justification to take away the tax-free status of a nonprofit. They can use it if they wanted to in the long run to even imprison the people that run it or bring charges against them to financially destroy the nonprofit. It defunds the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And it just goes on and on and on. We're going to watch a video in a minute, but I think one of the most heinous things it does, even against the outcry of local law enforcement across this country, it takes the taxes, the sales tax, off of silencers. If you look at the Columbine rules that are followed now in the case of a mass unaliving or an attempted unaliving on a school campus or in a public area, police are told to get to the source of the crime as quickly as they can. And you've got law enforcement agency after agency coming out and saying, don't make silencers easier to get because it eliminates our ability to track the crime to its source. And yet here they are, doing it anyway. And let's not forget Elon Musk. Let's not forget Elon Musk. He's taken care of in this bill as well. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. Hey guys, in the booth, if you would, let's pull up the graphic for high-income households stand to gain thousands. Just give me the thumbs up when that one's pulled up and ready to go. Okay, what I want you guys to do is take a look at this graph, guys, because this lays out for you exactly what's happening in this big, beautiful bill to taxes. Now, what this graph shows, just so you guys know what you're looking at here, this graph shows the change in income of these different economic demographics and income groups due to the big, beautiful bill. And there are two discrepancies I want you to notice right off the top. If you go to that bottom income bracket, the poorest of American citizens, from $0 to $17,000 a year, this is going to lower their income by $820 annually. Now, I want you to think about something for a minute. You're taking away food benefits, you're taking away healthcare benefits, which is going to force poor people to have to try to find a way to pay for more of their vital necessities out of their own pocket. Can you imagine only making $17,000 a year? Some of you can, because you're trying to live off of that and make ends meet right now. Could you imagine on top of that, your overall income dropping by $820? Or if you fall into that $17,000 to $51,000 bracket, your income dropping by $430? So that at the top end of that bracket, people making $4.3 million and above can see their income go up by almost $400,000. This is not how we built the middle class in this country, guys. This is not how we did it. It's the complete opposite of how we did it. We have proven over and over again in the Reagan administration, in the first Bush administration, in the second Bush administration, in the first Trump administration, and now again in the second Trump administration. Trickle-down economics doesn't work. It does not work. There's only so much disposable income that wealthy people can put into the economic marketplace that leads to jobs for people in these lower brackets. And yet here we are, that takes the first Trump administration tax breaks for the rich on the backs of the poor and the middle class and puts it on steroids. If you guys would go to that second graph on the tax plan, the House GOP mega bill would hurt low-income households. What you're looking at here, guys, is another graph that basically shows you the percentage changes in income over the course of this bill. And I want you to look at how far out it goes. We're locked into this thing until 2033, which is bullshit in itself, because this guy's bad policies are going to be with us in rural America and across the country well after he's pushing up daisies somewhere. In 2027, the lowest 10% of household incomes in this country are going to drop by 2%. And then in 29, 31, and 33, they're going to suffer 3 consecutive 4% drops. A total of 12%. And then look at the wealthy over there. This is the highest 10%. Again, guys, this is not how we built the middle class in this country. Right off the bat in 27, they see a 4% increase, and then a 3%, 1%, and 2% increase across the board for the wealthiest people in this country. This is not how we build the middle class. This is not how we sustain the middle class. We're taking away critical services for the elderly, the poor, and young people in this country. We're telling them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps which aren't there in a shitty economy caused by tariffs and a lack of understanding regarding how the international economy works. And then we're putting salt on the wounds by lowering their incomes through the tax system. Absolutely absurd. And let me just show you in my state alone how the cuts to Medicaid are going to impact my state. If you guys would bring up the Medicaid cuts and how they impact just the state of Missouri. And I'm going to walk you through these cuts. So in my state of Missouri alone, Medicaid directly serves more than 1.3 million Missourians. Now I'm going to tell you guys something, and if you're from Missouri and you're on this live tonight, you already know this. People like me and the other good people on this live that are involved in the political process here, we had to fight like hell to get Medicaid funds expanded in this state. And it only happened recently. We've got 1.3 million Missourians in this state that are covered by Medicaid. That includes 2 and 3 nursing home residents. And man, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. This one really, I got to take a drink real quick. Before I get into this, let me take a drink. Okay. This one really fires me up because I'm going through it personally. My mom had a stroke in 2017. And this is what the federal government and our state agencies ask us to do right now in order to get services for our parents when they grow old and when they have a serious medical issue. We are asked to bankrupt them. And those of you in healthcare in the comments, you back me up here. You let me know if I'm not saying something that's right. But we ask people to bankrupt their parents in order to get them Medicaid payments for nursing home care. And in the state of Missouri, 2 and 3 nursing home residents are paid for with Medicaid. And that's what we're doing right now. We're doing at-home care with my mom as we pay down her retirement savings that she worked her entire life for, so we can switch over to this system that the federal and state government push you toward. And now you're saying that once you've told people for years to get rid of your parents' retirement policy so that they can go into Medicaid, you're going to take that Medicaid away? That not only defies logic, it's the cruelest thing I've ever heard of. Because there's no backup plan. The money is gone. The money that my mother and your father worked for their entire lives, that the federal and state government asked us to spend out so that we could get them into a nursing home with the critical care that they need, that money's gone. And when you take away the funds from Medicaid, that money's gone as well. And now you've got families making critical choices, including, do they bring their parents home? Who takes care of them if they both work a full-time job? What if it's a single son or daughter with kids? None of this makes sense. It's bad policy and it's cruel policy. 40% of the, you know what? All the time we're reading about how these old white men in the Republican Party are trying to push policies that increase the birth rate because, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not. They're buying into these population decline studies that Elon Musk is pushing that says if we don't have a population increase in this country, we're going to move from the pyramid function to a straight line function, and that's going to be bad for us. Well, another way to get young people into your country? You allow people to legally immigrate here. You don't shut down the immigration system and then deport the young people that have already come here. So they're taking away reproductive rights. Now they're attacking birth control itself because they want to increase the birth rate. 40% of the new kids that come into the world here in Missouri, 40% of them are paid for by Medicaid, 50% in rural Missouri. Medicaid pays for over $13 billion in health care in the state of Missouri. 1 in 9 adults and 1 in 3 children are served by Medicaid in my state. And it's not just personal coverage that takes care of problems when you have health issues. It's the very facilities that exist in rural Missouri that are at risk here. Nearly half of our hospitals in rural Missouri are in danger of closing right now. And these cuts to Medicaid are almost going to ensure that not only do those 50% of hospitals close, but it's going to increase that number because we've got 50% that are in danger of closing now before these cuts have even taken place. I don't give a shit if you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, or you don't care about politics at all. You cannot make a cogent argument to me or anybody else that this is the right thing to do, the civil thing to do, or the moral thing to do. It fails on all 3 stool legs. What are we doing about it here on the back 40? Well, I'm going to tell you. Within the next month, before July, when this bill comes up in front of the Senate, they're expecting it to be put in front of the Senate right after the 4th of July. Before that happens, sometime in June or the beginning of July, we're going to be doing a series of 3 telephone town halls here at the back 40. 3 telephone town halls here at the back 40. We're going to divide the country into 3 geographic parts. We're going to host a Western United States town hall, a Midwestern, and an Eastern town hall. We're going to do this in conjunction with a national organization. I don't want to name it yet because we're firming up the details. But we're going to be doing this with a national organization in the healthcare arena that works every day diligently to try to prevent these things from happening. We're going to let a few people tell their personal stories about their experiences with rural healthcare. We're going to talk about what this bill would do to destroy rural healthcare. And then we're going to talk about what we can do to prevent it. That's what we're going to be doing here at the back 40. I'm going to talk to you in a minute about what you can do to help out because all of this costs money. You know that. Many of you have already donated. I'm spending out of my pocket, but it's the right thing to do, and we've got to continue. We've got to continue forward with this hard work. But before I talk about that, I want you guys, some of you probably watched the video that we put together and that we posted earlier today. Many of you know that I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. I walked down the aisle at the Brighton United Methodist Church when I was 12 years old, the same year that I got my arm caught in the power takeoff on the tractor and I almost died. That same year, I walked down the aisle of my little local Methodist church out in the country. And I did what we in the Christian faith called, I walked the Roman road. I said, hey, God, look at me. I'm not perfect. I'm a sinner. I'm sorry for what I've done. I'm going to try to live my life in a better way. Do this walk with me, God. Help me to be a better person. But I'm going to tell you something. My faith has been stolen by these charlatans and hooligans and grifters and fraudsters that take my Christian faith and your Christian faith, if you're a Christian and a believer, and they try to use it to do some of the most horrible things that have ever been done in the history of our country from a policy perspective. It's no different than any other time in our history when we've done heinous things and tried to justify it in the name of Christianity. Jesus Christ of the Roman road would not recognize the Jesus Christ that these people worship. You guys give me a thumbs up if we've got the video ready, but I want you to watch a video. We put this together because the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, went in front of the cameras and said, this bill was so important that I went into the chapel over here and I got down on my knees and I prayed for all of these other people you see behind me that were going to vote on this bill, that they would do the right thing. Well, I'm going to tell you something before we watch this video. It's queued up and it's ready to go, but I'm going to tell you something before we watch it. The good Lord would never support taking health care away from kids. He would never support taking health care away from the elderly, would never support taking health care away from the poor, would never support deporting 1 million people from this country, would never support putting 100,000 people in detention centers for the crime of coming for a better life. Let's run the video, guys. Just let me know when it's over.
Look, I'm just going to say, I give glory to God. I mean, there's a lot of prayer that brought this together. I'm just going to be very blunt about it. There was a few moments over the last week when it looked like the thing might fall apart, and I went to the little chapel over here and got on my knees and prayed that these guys would have wisdom and stamina and discernment, and that's the secret here.
That was a video of Speaker Mike Johnson saying that he got on his knees to pray for the passage of the big, beautiful bill. Hey guys, my name's Will. This is the Back 40, and let's talk about it. As a man of faith and as a Christian, I'd just like to start out by addressing the absurdity of getting on your knees to pray for a bill that cuts funding for programs designed to help the elderly, the poor, and young children, that takes away their health care, that robs them of the programs they need to fill their bellies at night so that they don't go to bed hungry. It's an absurdity, and more Christians need to stand up and point out these absurdities when they occur. In addition to the absurdity of praying for a bill that cuts funding for the poor, the elderly, and young children, I wonder what a prayer like this actually looks like. I mean, does it start out something like this? Dear Heavenly Father, please, Lord, in all your majesty and glory, please allow us the ability to take away $700 billion in Medicaid funding from the people in this country that really need it. Dear Lord, help us deny insurance coverage to 78.5 million Americans so that in their time of need, they'll be left with the quandary of trying to figure out, how do I pay for all of this treatment out of pocket? Dear Lord, please, in your infinite wisdom and power, please give us the ability to cut funding for 40% of the births in this country. And oh, by the way, Lord, that number's 50% in rural America. So give us the ability to cut that funding, because that's just what rural America really needs, is a cut in funding for newborn children. And oh Lord, by the way, in your infinite wisdom, knowing that the majority of Medicaid funding goes to the elderly and people with disabilities and children, please expedite this. Let us get it passed by July, Lord, so that we can take this funding away immediately and feel its negative impacts by the summer. Could you please help us cut $267 billion from the SNAP program as well? That's the program, Lord, where 40% of the funds go to feed children between the ages of newborn and 18 years old. I know, Lord, that it's critical in your overall plan that we cut these funds to deny these children the food that they need so that they don't go to bed hungry. And Lord, knowing your feelings about the poor, could you please help us pass the big, beautiful bill so that we can cut income taxes for the rich while raising income taxes on the lower middle class and the poor? Because, Heavenly Father, nothing screams Christianity and a strong Christian faith like cutting taxes for the rich by $4 trillion while causing the poor and the lower middle class to shoulder that debt. And Lord, we know how you feel about education. We know that you don't want to see our children educated in this country, so could you help us pass the big, beautiful bill so that we could begin collecting income taxes on the endowments for large universities, Lord? Could you make it possible for us to tax them up to 25% so that those dollars don't go for better education for American youth to help them compete in a very competitive world marketplace, but that it could go into the coffers for the government? We could use these funds that we save from education to round up 1 million immigrants every year and deport them. Because you know, Lord, that's our overall stated goal. And that goal, of course, falls right in line with your call for us to treat all foreigners as if they were our brothers and sisters. And along with that, Lord, our goal is to put 100,000 of them into private detention centers that are run by our friends so that they can make lots of money, Lord, and that we can waive their taxes through the big, beautiful bill. And Heavenly Father, if it be within your desire to do so, please, please help Elon Musk. Because the big beautiful bill, Lord, has a $25 billion golden dome built into it. And guess who gets to build that, Lord? Elon Musk. Elon Musk has been treated so poorly, and he's lived such a good Christian life with his multiple mothers and his multiple children that he never sees. We know, Lord, that he's living that biblical life that should be rewarded. And Lord, if you could, please silence all of these defense contractors and defense experts that have pointed out that this dome would do nothing to stop the majority of the attacks that are likely to occur over the next 3 decades. If you could just quiet them, Lord, in your own special way, make it so that they can't speak up, we'd really appreciate that. And finally, Lord, we know how you feel about silencers and firearms. So we're just asking, Lord, that you would pass the big, beautiful bill because, you know, Lord, nothing says Jesus Christ, love, and eternal life like not taxing silencers. And Lord, again, just like you're going to silence all those experts on defense, could you please silence all of the sheriffs and police chiefs and law enforcement organizations across the country that are claiming that this would be really bad for law enforcement because they wouldn't be able to source out the sounds and noises from mass unalivings or bank robberies or other events of violence? Lord, in your infinite wisdom, could you just cause them to be quiet so that we can do the Lord's work and take away taxes on silencers? My friends, there's nothing about the big, beautiful bill that represents Christianity or the faith. And if we Christians don't stand up to call it out, if we continue to let men like Mike Johnson use our Christianity as a bully pulpit for programs like this that are going to hurt the poor and hurt children and hurt the elderly, then we are as much to blame as he is.
Look, I'm just going to say.
All right, guys. So I got to tell you, as sad as it is, that's what I think about the Speaker of the House and the fact that he got down on his knees to pray for this bill. What an absolutely ridiculous thing to say. And I think that video says better than any of us could, what the absurdity levels have reached inside the Republican Party, that they would think that the God I know would be listening to this nonsense, would be saying, you know what, Speaker? Let's cut health care for those little kids. Let's cut health care for the elderly in nursing homes. Let's cut food programs for the poor and for single moms and for little kids. That sounds like a great idea. What an absurdity. But this is what we're up against, guys. This is what we're up against. We're up against a group of people that 100% have bought into the absurdity of it all and feel 100% comfortable trying to toss that blanket of absurdity on the rest of us in the hopes that we'll gather it up and wrap it around our shoulders and we'll all sing Kumbaya and poverty together. We're not going to let that happen here at the Back 40. So I want to take a minute to talk about the Back 40. If you guys would, in the booth, if you could pull up the Back 40 official website, just give me the thumbs up when it's up. I want to show you guys the website because I know we tell you to go there all the time, but I want to show it to you. So you see the website here, all right? When you first log into the website, first of all, you're going to notice that it's a beautiful website. I had nothing to do with its creation from a graphics perspective. That's why it looks so good. Otherwise, it would be all stick figures and everything would be written in crayon, okay? That's the first thing you need to know. But the bottom line is, when you first go into the website, there's going to be a little button that pops up that allows you to support us. Now, if you've already made up your mind and you want to help us pull off these telephone town halls across the country to push back against these senators that may vote for this bill, because there are two schools of thought on that. Don't believe what you hear on the media that, oh, this will never pass the Senate. This will never pass the Senate. There's another school of thought that actually makes a cogent argument that the Senate could make this worse. We no longer live in a political society where the Senate is the rational body, the rational entity that checks the House. Sometimes it works out that way, many times it doesn't. This bill could become worse before it leaves the Senate. So if you've already made up your mind, I want to help the back 40, you can do it right there when you first log into the website. But if you look at the website, you look at the About Us section, it's going to walk you through the genesis of why I decided to do all this and why we built the team here at the back 40. Why we built the team at the back 40. And there's some great information on here. You can see some of our past videos. You look at the top, you can click on the links to some of our best videos in the past, including our talk with the young farmer, our talks with Don Lemon and some other creators over the course of the last few months. I wanted to point something else out to you that I'm really proud of. We've also got a really active blog on this website that you may not know about, where we talk about different issues that are important to rural America, to agriculture, to rural schools, to rural healthcare. So there's a blog out there that's really active with some great information, some great news that you can read as well. The other thing is you can sign up to get updates from us from the back 40. We send out 1 or 2 newsletters a month. The team behind the scenes has done something really cool. They've invited a few folks from the back 40, and we're going to do more and more of this, to actually write some articles to go into the newsletter so we can get the voices from the back 40 out there to everyone else in the back 40. And you know that that's what we're all about, guys. Yeah, the back 40 started with Will Westmoreland going on TikTok and making videos about rural America, rural policy, and politics. But it's become so much more than that now. It's become an engine and an entity for rural advocacy in this country. And because of that, our voice is only being heard because all of you are following us and you're sharing your thoughts with us and you're sharing your ideas with us. I tell you guys over and over again, every time I give a speech, I mention the back 40 and I mention all of you. Because what do I say about a guy that wants to be a leader that nobody's following? What is he? He's just a guy taking a walk. The back 40 is as much or more about you as it is about me. And it's your support and your daily efforts and the fact that you watch our videos and you share our videos and you make donations and you buy merchandise to support what we're doing. I've told you over and over again, the support you give us doesn't go for Will. I've got the same truck with the same 200,000 miles on it sitting out in my driveway right now that I had when I started all of this. Your help goes to make the back 40 bigger, stronger, and to make our voices heard over a broader range. And it's working. It's working. Zeppo and I just talked to a woman and her husband a couple of weeks ago who, unlike the young farmer, have not gone on to social media to grouse about the fact that they haven't received their funds, reimbursement funds. And not only did they not get those funds, they were told 2 weeks ago, you're never going to get them. This is the dirty little secret of the USDA and the Trump administration. They've reached a conclusion. We paid off all the loudmouths on social media that were complaining the loudest so that they won't complain anymore. And they'll go back to making their conspiracy videos about the millions of people in North Carolina that died that we don't know about. And everybody else can go pound sand. The people doing the hard work. The people out there farming from the income they make from their farm. They've been told, piss off. Well, we're not going to let their voices go unheard. We're going to continue to tell their stories. And yes, those people that come to us and say it was a mistake for me to vote for this man and I'm ready to step up and help you fight, you're damn right we're going to let them join the team as well. Because if we ever want a mayor in rural America, if we ever want a county commissioner in rural America, if we ever want a school board that cares about children and education in rural America, if we ever want a state house rep or a state senator in rural America, we've got to change minds. There are not magical Democrats growing like morel mushrooms under rocks out there that we just haven't found. There are Democrats whose minds have not been changed yet. And if we want to win in rural America, we've got to change their minds. And I don't care how many backdoor videos are sent to me. I don't care how many people send me comments saying, don't try to change minds. Don't talk to these people. They're all idiots. They all vote against their best interest. They're all morons. I'm going to continue to talk to them in the hopes that I can change their minds. They took the time to do that. There wasn't a magical political fairy dust that was spread across the land that caused democratic rural areas of America to all of a sudden become Republican. They spent 30 years fighting that fight with talk radio and slanted news and memes and blogs and podcasts. And it worked because we didn't do those things. Well, now we are. And we're doing it here at the Back 40. And we're fighting in every area: blogs, websites, videos, social media, podcasts. And my friends, we can't do it without you. So continue to make your own videos and share those with me so that I can share them and get your voices out there, like we have with Sleepy Mama and Susie and others, and continue to help us here. All right. I want to talk a little bit about another trend that I've seen, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this, not as much as I was going to, but I've seen another trend that really bothers me, guys. And that is this trend that I see out there amongst a lot of farmers and ranchers to give Trump credit for the good things that have been happening in agriculture over the last 3 or 4 years. And one of the things I wanted to do tonight was call bullshit on this. Our young farmer friend tried to do this. Spent a lot of time in his quote unquote response video talking about how cattle prices are up because of Trump. If you guys would in the booth, pull up the direct payments graph if you could, and just give me the thumbs up when you've got that pulled up. You guys have seen this graph that they're about to pull up before. We talked about this back before the election. We talked about this before the election, the direct payments to farmers. So I've told you this story before. I've told you this story before. The agricultural policies of the first Trump administration were so bad that farmer self-unalivings were increasing, farmer bankruptcies were increasing, the number of farms being brought up by corporate ag and Wall Street were increasing. And why? Because of the tariffs. Because of the tariffs. The easiest way for any country to retaliate against us when we put tariffs on them is to stop buying American agricultural products. And many of you know the statistics as well as I do now because you're part of the Back 40 and you've heard me say it over and over again. What happened? The Chinese quit buying row crops. They quit buying our pork. Brazil used to sell the Chinese 13% of their row crops, corn, soybeans, etc. Now they sell 43% of China's purchases to China. You know that old picture of China that says our agricultural BFF, and they had their arm around Uncle Sam? Uncle Sam ain't in that picture anymore. It's the flag of Brazil. That's their new BFF. And look at what we had to do as a country and as a government to bail out farming. During Trump's third year, we had to increase subsidies in this country to over $26 billion to bail out farming. And it was so bad, the ramifications and repercussions of Trump's ag policies were so bad that even in the first year of the Biden administration, we had to give out over $28 billion in subsidies to keep farms and ranches from going out of business, and some of them still did. And then look what happened in the second and third years of the Biden administration. Subsidies dropped drastically. Why did they do that? Well, I'm glad you asked the question. If you guys would pull up the graphic about net farm income, just give me the heads up when it's up. The reason why those subsidies went down is because look at net farm income under Biden. In Trump's last year in office, net farm income was a little over 93, well, almost $94 billion. Look at what it did in the first year of the Biden administration. It climbed to $155 billion and then went all the way up to 188 billion. The second year of the Biden administration, 2022, was the best year for row crop sales in the United States to foreign entities in the history of the country. In spite of what Trump did to screw over farmers and ranchers in this country. And yet here we are with people like the young farmer and others trying to give Trump credit for all of the good things that have happened in agriculture. This shit started before Trump even thought about running for a second term. And it happened because of good policies put in place by the Democratic Party and by Joe Biden. God bless him. And now here we go again. The man can't even spell tariffs, but he can sure as hell put them in place and then take them away and then put them back again and then take them away and then change the amount and then take them away and then put them back and then take them away again. And the markets go like this. Looks like a roller coaster ride at Cedar Point or Six Flags Over Texas because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And farmers and ranches and rural America are paying the price for his lack of education. And he's got a Secretary of Agriculture whose only claim to fame is she grew up on a farm, which is great. But none of the lessons stuck, and that's bad. She goes up to Iowa and says, don't worry that you're going to lose billions of dollars in row crop sales because we're going to put a little over $500 million into increasing ethanol. Well, let me see. Do I need to take my shoes off for this? No, I don't think I do. A loss of $30 billion in row crop sales. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments because I was educated in a rural country school, but a loss of $30 billion in row crop sales, can
Joe,
that be offset? Can that be offset by $550 million in increased ethanol production? No, it can't. It can't. All right, one last thing I want to look at here in regard to agriculture and what Joe Biden did for agriculture. If you guys would in the booth, pull up the USDA website dealing with cattle prices for me. Just let me know when that's up. This is another thing that the young farmer and many others that are doing videos and social media about cattle pricing. This is another thing that they've been telling us. Look at the great increase in cattle prices under President Trump. Well, there's only one problem with this. Unfortunately, we have a history here. So if you guys would, let's take a look at this graph. Let's take a look at this graph, and then we're going to do a dive into the data. But let's look at this graph. I want you to notice something here, okay? You see that big upward trend that starts in 2021? Now, you may need to Google this. You may need to Google this, especially if you're one of these farmers and ranchers claiming that Donald Trump is responsible for increased beef prices in this country and is the reason why cattlemen are making so much money right now. But if my memory serves me correctly, Joe Biden was elected president in November of 2020. If my memory serves me correctly. Google it if you don't believe me. And then look what happens to all three categories of beef. And we break it into three parts, guys. We list all beef, we list calves, and we list cows, and we list steers and heifers. But in a cow-calf operation like the one that my family had, that I operated until we sold it, we raised calves and we took them to the sale barn and we sold them. Look what happened to prices under Biden in 2021. 2022, 2023, and all the way to the end of 2024. Over 85% of the increases in the price of beef sales at the sale barn and everywhere else in the sales process occurred under Joe Biden. Joe Biden, or as I like to call him, the best friend a cattleman ever had. Since President Trump came into office, overall price per pound beef increases stand at 5 cents. For calves, it's been higher. But it doesn't matter because it doesn't change the fact that the vast majority of the increase incurred under Joe Biden. Why? Because Joe Biden went to war with the meat packers in this country and said it's bullshit that you have these monopolies that are forcing farmers and ranchers to sell all of their beef through a system where you set the prices. And he encouraged farm to table, where people in the cities and in the country could buy beef directly from the farm, increasing the price that farmers and cattlemen got for their product. He increased the investments, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, in regional meat processing centers so that the big conglomerates didn't get all the processing. And that produced more jobs. And it led to more competitiveness. The other thing he didn't do, even though he received a lot of pressure to do it, he didn't do what Donald Trump did during his first administration. He didn't allow the Brazilians to dump beef onto the American marketplace in the greatest numbers we've ever seen in the history of the United States in order to get a guy elected in Brazil who's even worse than the guy we have here when it comes to dictatorial fantasies that he touches himself to at night. And oh, by the way, it wasn't Joe Biden that put tariffs in place that caused the Chinese to say, you know what? That $1.7 billion in beef we're buying from America right now, we'll just buy that from Australia. It wasn't Joe Biden that did that. So shame on you. Shame on you for doing what you always try to do when you support this man who's been horrible for American agriculture. You take the hard work and the payoff and the benefits that a man who knew something about agriculture and who had a USDA secretary that was a hell of a lot better than the one we have now, and you try to attribute those gains to a guy that every time he looks at a agricultural study looks like a cow looking at a new gate. We're not going to let that happen here at the Back 40. You can pretend that these things aren't happening. We don't care. We're going to point it out. You can try to say that the good things that are happening are because of Donald Trump. We're going to show you with facts right here from the USDA website. We pulled this off the USDA website today. These are the numbers from the Trump administered USDA website right now, today, in real time. You're looking at the website in real time. The numbers aren't fake. They're not doctored. They're not changed. They're not from a week ago. They're not from a month ago. They're not from a year ago. You're looking at the numbers in real time. Somebody obviously dropped the ball and forgot to delete the damn website because the real numbers are out there and we can see who should take credit for the price increases. So to any of you young farmers out there that are buying new trucks, new tractors, new side-by-sides, a lot more land and a bunch of fencing material, thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Joe Biden. Send the man a Christmas card because that's the least you should do for him. All right, guys. I'm fired up tonight. I want to talk about one more thing. I want to talk about one more thing because we haven't talked about it in a while. And I'm going to be honest with you, I sprung this on the guys at the last minute. We had a show planned for tonight, we had everything lined up, and good old Will pulled what he always does. I hammered the guys about 5 minutes before we're supposed to start, and I said, I need you to put two more websites up for me because by God, we're going to talk about Ukraine tonight. We're going to talk about Ukraine tonight. So if you guys would in the booth there, I want you to pull up the website, U.S. Silence Encouraging Putin. And what you're going to learn here in just a minute is that Donald Trump has no clue about international relations, about negotiation, about ending a war, about putting a long-term peace process in place. He has no clue. Check it out here. Check it out here. U.S. silence is encouraging Putin, says Zelensky, after Russia launches a record air assault. Let me tell you something. When I came onto TikTok and social media, I didn't know a damn thing about Ukraine, except I knew Russia was our enemy. That's something I haven't forgotten growing up in the 80s. He is a bloodthirsty criminal bastard. And if you hero worship him, you're no better than he is. You're no better than he is. Look at what he's done over the course of the last 2 weeks while he's supposedly engaged in negotiations with the greatest negotiator in the history of the world. Intentionally bombing civilians, firing missiles into hospitals and apartment complexes. They launched the largest aerial assault of the 3-year war on Ukraine in just the last few days. Why are they doing all this? I'll tell you why. Go ahead and pull up the second story for me, if you would, guys. Trump says Putin has gone absolutely crazy after major Russian attacks. The reason they're doing this is because our commander in chief doesn't have a clue as to how to control this situation. Just like with everything else, with agricultural policy, with infrastructure policy, with economic policy, with the tariffs, and now with the war in Ukraine, he doesn't have a clue. He's learning the lesson that regardless of the words you use to communicate what you're going to do, there has to be a significant and educated and knowledgeable process occurring behind the scenes in order to accomplish those goals. And he doesn't understand any of that. Check out this story. I mean, you can read the writing between the lines here. What's happened with our president is he's just throwing up his hands. He's just throwing up his hands. Putin's gone crazy. No, Putin hasn't gone crazy. He figured you out a long time ago, President Trump. He's doing just the opposite of going crazy. He's playing you like a fiddle. He's playing you like a fiddle. And why not? Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he do that? It's to his benefit to take advantage of your lack of negotiating skills, of your lack of gravitas, of your lack of seriousness. Nobody takes you seriously. Nobody. Our allies don't take you seriously. Our enemies don't take you seriously. And yet you're shocked that Putin is doing what Putin is doing? I'm going to come into office and within 48 hours, this war will be over. That's how good a negotiator I am. And then you brought the president of Ukraine into the Oval Office and you let Marjorie Taylor Greene's drunk boyfriend humiliate him. And you let the vice president, who knows as much about Ukraine as my dog, sit there and humiliate him. And you communicated to the entire world through your actions that you were taking Putin's side in this war. You didn't have to say it out loud. You didn't have to say it out loud because even my kids, when they were little, knew. Don't listen to what I say. Look at what I do. That's what Putin is doing. He's playing you because you don't know what you're doing. And you know who's suffering the most for your incompetence, your arrogance, your ignorance, your lies, your half truths, and your sense of entitlement that outweighs international negotiations and good economic policy and working together with our allies to create positive change in this country. You know who pays the most? Those innocent men, women, and children who are dying in Ukraine because nobody takes you seriously. Putin has no worries at all that if he hurls a missile into a hospital or an apartment complex, that you're going to do anything to stop him besides yap, yap, yap. And ask any farmer if he or she is afraid of a yapping dog. Hell no, we're not. Let the dog yap. Nobody's afraid of a yapping dog. Least of all Putin. It needs to be a t-shirt on the back 40. Trump yapping like a dog. Nobody's afraid of a yapping dog. There you go. With a picture, big, beautiful picture of the Ukrainian flag on the back. All right, guys. You've dealt with a lot tonight. You've dealt with technical issues. You've dealt with a restart. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm damn proud of the work that we do here at the Back 40, and I'm damn proud of what we talked about tonight. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you were here to listen and to spread the word and to support us in what we're trying to do. Support us in what we're trying to do because it's critical work, and there are not a lot of people doing it, especially in rural America. That's the bottom line. And I know I come on here and I talk about these issues and I'm passionate about it. And sometimes I get fired up like I did tonight. But let me tell you why. It's because I know that you're doing the good work. You're fighting with us every day. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like we're the only ones doing it. I know that's not true. There's so many great organizations out there fighting the good fight. We work with a lot of them. But I feel like in rural America, I sometimes feel like we're the only ones doing that work. And like many of you, I care enough about rural America and the way of life out here in small family farms and ranches that I can't just sit by and watch it all go away because of the incompetence of one man and the greed of a system. I can't do it. I benefited from it. And my grandfather taught me when I was a kid, all the way up until the time I was a man and he passed away, that you can't allow these things that you were privileged enough to enjoy growing up that led you to become the man that you are today. You can't let those things go away. You can't not fight for them. You can't let anybody take them away. And I know you guys feel the exact same way too. I know you do. I know you do. So I'm going to say two final things. First, I want to say thank you again. Thank you so much for everything you've done since last June when we came onto social media and started this journey together. And I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back. This is a compliment to you. When we're out there talking to people who are familiar with social media and movements and what we're trying to accomplish, none of them can believe that we've grown as quickly as we have in the short amount of time that we've done it. And anybody involved with this will tell you every time they say that, I say the same thing because we've got a group of Americans behind us who care. They're not going to drop the ball. They're not going to take their eye off the prize. They're never going to stop fighting. No matter how many people they deport, no matter how many people they put in camps, no matter how many students they arrest and hide in prisons around the country and around the world. no matter how many rights they try to take away to intimidate people, we're not going to stop fighting for the right thing ever, ever, ever. And I can't thank you enough for being a part of that. And I just want to thank all of you guys for sticking with us as we've grown in so many different ways. There are times because this administration attacks us in so many different ways that we've got to talk about the same issues multiple times. We've got to reiterate what they're doing. And yet you stick with us. As we've grown, we've had to change platforms. We've had to move to different platforms. We've had to add new technology. We've had to create websites, a PAC, a nonprofit. This has been a difficult and stressful process, and yet you have stuck with us through it all because you know the critical work we're doing, and you know that this is whack-a-mole with them. 15 things pop up, and if we let one of those go, what if one of them is your kid? What if one of them is your mom? What if one of them is the elderly person in your family that needs health care? We have to hit every single one of these assaults when they come. That's why we created the C4. That's why we created the PAC. That's why we created the media company. And you have been with us all the way through. All the way through. You've been there with us, fighting the fight, being patient, offering us advice. And I can't tell you how incredible it is now to see you guys making your own videos, creating your own social media, and giving me the great honor of sharing that out there as part of the Back 40 to get your stories out to change even more minds. So as we close tonight, I want every single one of you to give yourselves a round of applause. Reach over and pat yourself on the back because you're helping to make a difference. And I'm thanking you as much as you're thanking me. Let's keep fighting the good fight. I want to tell you about our next two lives. First, this Thursday night, we're going to be talking to the guy that is the leader over Missouri Jobs for Justice. He has fought the good fight to try to prevent the Republicans in the state of Missouri from overriding the will of the people and overturning the ballot initiatives that we put in place and that we passed. Even if you're not from Missouri, I want you to join Thursday night from 6 to 8, and I want you to listen because they're doing this in every state around the union where people are putting ballot initiatives on the ballot to win back rights for our sisters, to ensure decent wages, to guarantee sick leave, to guarantee leave when children are born. They're doing this all over the country. Join us Thursday night. We're going to be talking to a really good friend of mine. You're going to love Richard. He's going to talk to you about everything that's happening in the state of Missouri. We lost that fight this week. Even though the majority of Missourians passed these laws, we lost that fight. They're trying to put it on the ballot again to take away the rights that we enshrined in the Constitution. And he's going to tell us how we can fight and push back, not only in the state of Missouri, but around the country. And then next Monday night, we're going to be bringing on Crystal Quaid, who ran for governor in the state of Missouri in the last general election. She's going to be coming on to talk about some issues that are important both nationwide and here in the state of Missouri. You're really going to enjoy both of them. They're a fountain of knowledge. They're a wealth of knowledge. And they're going to help teach us lessons that we can apply not only in the state of Missouri, but across the country. Listen, guys, thank you for everything. Go to the back40official.com. Support us if you can. Help us get these telephone town halls out there into the marketplace so that we can stand up and fight against these Medicaid cuts and the unfathomable cuts in the big, beautiful bill. Together, if we keep fighting, there's no doubt in my mind, guys, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If we keep fighting together, there's no way we won't win in the end. Have a great